Good morning, Coach Jude Martinez. Good morning, classmate. My name is Florime Alfonso Columbres, taking the course of VTLET IA. I am the little teacher of the study group number 9 or the INDUSTRIOUS, and my role in this video presentation is to give the overall introduction. Today, we are presenting the 14 Learner-Centered Psychological Principle. The 14 Learner-Centered Psychological Principle integrated research and theory from education and psychology prepared by the American Psychological Association that provide frameworks for educational reform and redesign. The 14 Learner-Centered Psychological Principle is divided into 4 main domains or categories, which is first, cognitive and metacognitive factor. Under here, 6 principles. Mr. John Michael Octaviano and I will discuss. The second is the motivational and affective factors. 3 principles. Ms. Nerlin Luyao will discuss. The third one is the developmental and social factor. Mr. Hamja Mutadin who will discuss the 2 principles. And the fourth or the last is the individual differences factor. Mr. John C. Loberanes will discuss the 3 principles of it.
I'm John Michael Octaviano Ibanez. I'm one of the member of the Group 9 Cognitive and Metacognitive Factor. So here are the following factors that I'm going to discuss. Number 1 is nature of learning process. So the learning of complex subject matter is most effective when it is international process of constructing meaning from information and experiences. Social constructivist scholars view learning as an active process where learners should learn to discover principles, concepts, and facts for themselves. So the number 2 is goal of the learning process. So the successful learner over time and with support and instructional guidance can create meaningful, coherent representations of knowledge. Personal learning goals are about improving students' learning and achievement and building students' capacity to learn. So the number 3 is construction of knowledge. The successful learner can link new information with existing knowledge in meaningful way. Also, the construction of knowledge is an active process that happens through individual or social engagement. So the construction of knowledge happens by building on people's prior knowledge, and not only the knowledge and also to the experiences.
So now, I will continue the 4 principles of cognitive and metacognitive factors. Strategic thinking. The successful learner can create and use a repertoire of thinking and reasoning strategies to achieve complex learning goals. Successful learners use in their approach to learning reasoning, problem solving, and concept learning. Meaning that many ways and strategies. We're going to collect different strategies or methods that we can use to order for us to learn things for our own. Number 5. Thinking about thinking. Successful learner can reflect on how they think and learn, set reasonable learning or performance goals, select potentially appropriate learning strategies or methods, and monitor their progress toward the goals. So it is the higher order thinking strategies for selecting, monitoring mental operations, facilitate creative and critical thinking. The 6th principle is context of learning. Learning is influenced by environmental factors, including culture, technology, and instructional practice. It's defined as the situation in which something is learned or understood, a situation that we can impact how something is learned or what is taught. We need to see to it, do we have a conclusive learning environment? We need to make sure that our classroom environment, particularly to the degree to which is nurturing or not, we can also have significant impact to the students' learning.
The Principle 7, Principle 8, and Principle 9 of the 14 Learner-Centered Psychological Principles. Principle 7, Motivational and Emotional Influences on Learning. What and how much is learned is influenced by the learner's motivation. Motivation to learn is influenced by the individual's emotional states, beliefs, interests, goals, and habits of thinking. Positive emotions such as curiosity generally enhance motivation and facilitate learning and performance. Mild anxiety can also enhance learning and performance by focusing the learner's attention on a particular task. Principle 8. Intrinsic motivation to learn. The learner's creativity, higher order thinking, and natural curiosity all contribute to motivation to learn. Intrinsic motivation is stimulated by tasks of optimal novelty and difficulty, relevant to personal interest, and providing for personal choice and control. Effects of motivation on effort. Acquisition of complex knowledge and skills requires extended learner effort and guided practice. Without learners' motivation to learn, the willingness to exert effort is unlikely without coercion. Motivation also leads to increased effort and energy. Motivation determines what consequences are reinforcing or punishing.
To each and everyone, especially to our professor, I am Muhtadin M. Hamja. I am discuss about development and social factors. Development influence on learning. There are domains that will development influence on learning such as physical, intellectual, emotional, and social domain. Domain has a different factors with regards to learning such as peers influence, merely chatting, talking, and collaboratively interacting each other was part of learning that we could get from it. Insight from this, we also learn by sharing ideas by our facilitator and teachers, and even having brainstorming on Facebook and other platforms. We also learn from our parents at home by giving them discipline, and they take good care of us. Also by modeling and seeing them at home from our diary routine, it is greater factor that we can learn from it.
In the previous topic, we have heard social influences learning, and we are now in the individual differences factor. In the number 12, individual differences in learning. Individuals are born with and develop their own capabilities and talents. Educators need to help students examine their learning preferences and expand or modify them if necessary. There are many learning preferences like visual learners, kinesthetic learners, reading, writing learners, auditory learners, etc. As a student like me, with own talents and capabilities, all I know is that I am visual learner, because I notice that I learn more and become more interested in lessons when I can actually see, especially when it comes to pictures and videos. And when I hear the lessons being taught of the teacher, I visualize it and picture out it to remember and understand the lessons. And if I hear noise, I lose focus on the lessons. So educators need to help students examine their learning preferences and expand or modify them if necessary. And let's go to number 13. Learning and diversity. Learning is most effective when differences in learners, linguistic, cultural, and social backgrounds are taken into account. The same basic principles of learning, motivation, and effective instruction apply to all learners. When learners perceive that their individual differences are valued, respect, and accommodated in learning tasks and contexts, levels of motivation and achievement are enhanced. And the last one, the number 14, standards and assessment. Setting appropriately high and challenging standards and assessing the learner as well as learning progress include diagnostic process and outcome assessment are integral parts of the learning progress. Assessment provides important information to both the learner and the teacher at all stages of the learning process. Standardized assessment of learner progress and outcomes assessment provides one type of information about achieving levels both within and across individuals that can inform various types of programmatic decisions. One of the examples of standards is the standardized test, constructed by test experts like the NAT or National Achievement Test to determine students' academic levels, strengths and weaknesses, as well as their knowledge learned in major subjects throughout the year. And I experienced it when I was in high school. I took that National Achievement Test. And that's all.
Learner-centered psychological principles provide a framework for developing and incorporating the components of new designs for schooling. This principle emphasizes the active and reflective nature of learning and learners. From this perspective, educational practice will be most likely to improve when the educational system is redesigned with the primary focus on the learners. Psychologists in the collaborations with educators can help decide how to apply sound psychological principles in the redesigns of America's school. A new and exciting visions of schooling and psychologists' role in these visions can then emerge. Our immediate goals in offering this learner-centered psychological principle is to provide a framework that can contribute to current educational reform and school redesign efforts. Through dialogue with concerned group of educations, researchers, and policymakers, this learner-centered principle can evolve further of contribute not only to new designs for America's school, but also to society committed to lifelong learning, healthy human development, and productivity. In developing this principle, psychology, together with other disciplines, can contribute to the betterment of America's schools and the enhancements of the nation's vital human resources.